Welcome to our recorded session for undergraduate psychology. Our presenter today is Dr. Sean Watson.
Might have, please put in the chat and we'll try and address them towards the end. So let's start off by providing an overview. And who's the program for? Now, broadly, it's about people who have an interest in psychology. So what's psychology? Psychology is the study of mind and behaviour. So anyone who's got an interest in human behaviour, emotions, thoughts, and so on, this is the program for you. And I'll talk a little bit more about the specific content. The program overall is both specific and flexible. Now, what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is it is specifically about psychology. So if you wanted to start a journey on a path to becoming a psychologist, this is the place to do it. The content is, by and large, 2/3 of the content is going to be about psychology. And if you want, you can do more psychology on top of that as well. At the other time, it's a really flexible program. Flexible in two ways. One, an undergraduate psychology degree is not just a pathway to becoming a psychologist. There's lots of different career outcomes from studying psychology, and I'll talk more about that later. It's also flexible internally in terms of how you structure it. So 2/3 of the courses that you do are required courses about psychology, but the other 1/3 are up to you. So you can choose courses that basically we like to describe it as value adding to your degree by choosing something that might be related to psychology, but it's going to help you get a job once you're finished. And we'll talk more about that in a little bit. A really important part to be aware of is that this program and these courses are accredited with the Australian Psychology Accreditation Council, or APAC, and it's the only undergraduate degree at Fair Uni that is accredited. So why is that important? If you want to become a psychologist, if you would like to leave the door open to becoming a psychologist, your undergraduate degree must be an accredited program. So that's really important to keep in mind. Okay, so where we run, so I don't know where everyone's from here today who's joined us for this session, but we run the program at 3 different campuses. I find myself in Mount Helen, which is in Ballarat, but we also have a campus at Berwick and we have a campus in Gippsland at Churchill. If you do the program full-time, it'll take you 3 years to complete, and you can start the program in either semester 1 or in semester 2. So it doesn't matter. We take what we call a mid-year intake. How do you get into the program? Well, there's various different ways you can enter the program. For Year 12 applicants or for non-Year 12 applicants, you can join these different pathways. The best way to find out is to visit the Fair Uni website. And there's a screenshot there of what it looks like. Click on the psychology link and go into this program, and it goes into some detail about the entry requirements. So you need, you'll have either sort of the required Year 12 pathways, or you can come in as a mature age student. We get lots of both. Sometimes you might not have the prerequisites to get in to the program. For example, you know, you might not be a current student, you're returning to current VCE student, you're returning to study, whatever. And this is just to alert you to the fact that, look, there are other ways to enter the program through the university. So if you'd like to do psychology, but you haven't got the prereqs, don't draw a line and say, I can't do it. There's plenty of options for you to do. And really all you need to do is pick up the phone or shoot us an email and we can discuss the different pathways of joining. Okay. So what will you study? I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, but just to give you an overview of the types of things you're going to study. We can divide, as I mentioned before, the program into 2 parts. So we have our core psychology and then we have our electives. These are our core psychology. So these are the courses that we tell our accrediting body that we're going to do. These are the courses that are going to give you all those important graduate attributes that are valued by employers. We start fairly broadly with sort of introductory type courses, and as you move from first to second to third year, we become more and more specific with regards to what we're talking about. So if you look at the third year, we've got abnormal there and testing and assessment, really important parts of psychology. And in second year, you'll see there we're doing things like developmental psychology, counselling, culture, social psychology, personality, a lot of that stuff that people associate with psychology. Now, the other part of the program are the electives. And this is what I mentioned before. This is where you get a chance to choose what you want to sort of value add to your program, if you like. Some students will do, for example, an elective stream in all the same courses. So it might be one that's popular is community human services or criminal justice or behavioural studies, which is kind of more psychology, or you might do something a bit different. You might do exercise and sports science or biological sciences. You know, depending on what you're interested in, you can do whatever you like, or you can just mix and match. You can do some community human service, some criminal justice. It's up to you. It can be a little bit daunting, but we give you plenty of assistance in choosing your electives. I've got one highlighted there in red in third year and first semester there. In third year, you get an opportunity to do a work integrated learning course if you like. It's not a core component. It's an optional course for you to do where you can go and work somewhere. And it can, you know, there's a variety of different employers and different workplaces where you can go and work and do that. So to get some sort of placement work integrated learning training prior to completing your degree gives you an opportunity to apply a lot of those graduate attributes that you've developed throughout the program. So what does it look like when you actually come onto campus and study? Typically for each course, there's about 2 to 3 contact hours. So what we mean by contact hours is hours where you are in a classroom, or if COVID restrictions hit, we're doing things online. The delivery itself is flexible in that there's some online learning materials before you come to class, the combination of reading and videos and so on, and then we come into class and we have what we call seminars or face-to-face seminars. As part of your degree, you'll do a range of different assessments. Some of these are quite specific scientific lab reports, essays, oral presentations, and then quite a bit more applied stuff like presenting case reports and so on. When you've got so many courses, it's hard to do, but that's kind of the sort of stuff you'd be looking at doing. Okay, so you've graduated. What do you do with your degree? So there's 2 different ways, 2 different pathways, I suppose, we can divide it into, and I'll talk about each of those separately. One is to become a psychologist, and one is other careers, and that's sort of what I've got the heading for. So how do you become a psychologist? Well, once you've done this degree, you can do further study to become a psychologist. So you can't become a psychologist after just doing an undergraduate. You need to do a little bit more. And this is what a lot of our students do. So they'll do the undergraduate, and I'll talk in a moment about the other courses that you can do, and then you can specialise in psych. So you can be a general, you can be a general registration, or you can be specialised in clinical psych or educational psych or counselling or organisational psych or sports psych or whatever you like. As long as it's APAC accredited, which I mentioned before, you can use these programs to go on and register as a psychologist. Will you get a job as a psychologist? Absolutely. If you've been keeping your sort of ear open when you hear the news, there's a lot of jobs out there. There's a big demand for people with for psychologists and people with psychology-related degrees. So here's just a snapshot from a government website on the growth and the potential for getting a job in psychology. Very strong future growth in psychology. So this is basically the top rating of their 5-point rating system. So basically, it's a career in demand. How do you become a psychologist? Well, here's a little diagram. This is from the APS, who's sort of the professional body for psychologists. And we have here where you can study at Fed Uni. And you'll see there that we have the undergraduate program. This is the Bachelor of Psych Science. So this is this degree. If you want to become a psychologist, you then need to go on and do a 4th year and then a master's program. So it's a little bit of a journey, and at each step you become more and more specialised. The good news is you can do all of this study with us at Fed Uni. So we offer a program at level 1, at step 1, we offer a program at level 2 or step 2, and at step 3 we offer 2 different programs. Once you've done that, you can register as a psychologist. So it might be considered a long journey, but what a lot of people consider to be a really rewarding journey. Now, what if you don't want to become a psychologist, or you don't want to follow that pathway, you don't want to study that long? That's fine. Probably, probably a majority of our graduates our students don't necessarily want to become psychologists. There's a lot of careers out there for which a psych degree is a great basis, a great building block for various careers. Anything that has anything to do with human behaviour, employers like psych graduates. And I speak for someone who comes from a HR and recruitment background. And here's just some examples of skills or types of careers that you can move into. Just a snapshot of some of those types of careers who employ psychology graduates. The other way is you can go on to do further study. Increasingly, people are doing postgraduate study on top of their undergraduate degrees, and a lot of programs will take psychology graduates into them. So it's not just psychology. You can move into education, you can move into counselling, social work, marketing, and so on. There's lots of different opportunities. So really, the last point there is, when it comes to your psychology career, it's really up to you where you want to take it. And that's the value of those electives. You get to play around with different courses and say, do I like this? Don't I like this? Here's where I can build my skills to be employable. So what are some of those skills that, so before I move on to that, it's easier for us to be able to say, okay, what are the careers for psychologists? When we're talking about other careers, it's a little bit difficult because we're not talking about specific careers, but what we can say is that the skills that emerge from a psychology degree are those skills that are going to be in demand in the future. And I won't read this out, but this is just a snapshot to show that, and the bit there that's highlighted, knowledge shortages in psychology make up the largest single contribution to the category. So this is skill shortages. And this is from a report about the future work for Australian graduates. So will I get a job after a psych degree? Well, the predictions are that there's going to be knowledge shortages in the areas where you have skills if you're a graduate from this program. So what are those skills? Here's just a list of some of the types of things: analytical problem solving, information sourcing, critical thinking is a big one. Psych students are well known for their critical analysis. Obviously, mental health, communication, interpersonal, and so on. So I won't read them all out there, but what you're acquiring from a psych degree are skills which are not only valuable for psychology, but are transferable to a lot of other careers. And we also like to think in your personal lives as well. All right. So that's why you'd study psychology. Why would you study at Fair Uni? And I think if you sit through presentations for other programs, you'll probably see these details. But by and large, we do very, very well for student support. We do very well for student employment once they graduate, and rank very well compared to other universities in Victoria. When it comes to student support, here's some of the things that we mean by when we say student support. Sometimes coming to university, if you're straight out of VCE, can be challenging, and there's a lot of support around that. If you're returning to study, it can be quite difficult, and there's a lot of support around that sort of thing. Support's not just for students who might be struggling, it's also for students that just want to do their very, very best. And so there's a lot of support for just how do I get the very, very best grades I can possibly get. And it's really, really important, really valuable to get good grades. So if you come to Fair Uni, there is a lot of support around those sorts of things. And there's also a lot of scholarships, bursaries and grants. Again, I won't go into the details because this is readily available. And if you sit through other presentations, you'll probably hear all about this. But there are scholarships and opportunities for funding from people from various sorts of from various walks of life, as the slide points out. Now, the last slide I want to leave you with is why. Okay, that's why you come to Fair Uni. That's why you would study psychology. Why would you study psychology at Fair Uni? When we speak to our past students, and we have good relationships with our past students, we keep in touch with them. The thing they say most of all is you get to know the lecturers. We have small classes. We know your names. You'll get to know us. You get to know your next. We like to say you're a name and not a number. And it's a bit of a cliche, but it's true. You know, we do know our students. We do know our past students. A lot of them return and do further study with us, or we just keep in touch and we know what they're doing. And a lot of our past students for me now are our contacts for students to go out and do work integrated learning. So we're well aware of who they are and where they go. It also, as I've mentioned before, it's flexible. So you get those elective streams where you can just pick and choose whatever it is. So it could be something to enhance your degree, to give you vocational options, or it could be something that you just simply find interesting. And like I mentioned, people do a broad range of things from more psych to exercise and sports science. If you want to become an organisational psych, you can do some business. If you want to be a sports psych, you can do the sports degrees. Another reason is our work integrated learning course, which I mentioned very briefly, but there's that elective option in third year for you a chance to do a course which is in the workplace as part of your program. And the last reason I've got on this slide here is that if you want to become a psychologist, you can do it all here at Fed Uni. So you don't have to leave, so you can do your 3 years, then your 4th year, and then your master's degree. Regardless of where you're coming from, we can help facilitate that. At the Mount Helen campus, we've got a psych clinic. So we have a practicing professional psych clinic. So there's a lot of opportunities. And I could talk forever, but I won't. I recognise the time's getting on a little bit. So I think I've timed it quite well. And thank you very much for listening to me have a chat. And if there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have.